Town Council votes to accept 2 grants, approves a measure that will allow the council to write letters of support for nonprofit organizations, and will allow boards, committees, and commissions to have alternate members. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, October 3rd, 2014. I'm Sarah Mannel. Town Council holds a short but productive meeting last night. The evening started off with a tribute to Town Council President Jessica Rapp-Grassetti for her work as chair of the Barnstable 375th Committee. Town Council Vice President Ann Kennedy presented her with flowers and a plaque to thank her for her efforts.
Wow, I didn't see that one coming at all, but and I'm going to be very brief, but you should all give all of the residents of the town of Barnstable a clap, because they're the people that came out and made all the celebrations to celebrate our 375 anniversary possible in all the villages. And I am so proud to represent not only my village of Katuah, but this entire town of Barnstable. This is the place I want to be, and thank you so much. It's really
And congratulations to Town Council President Jessica Rapp-Grassetti, a well-deserved recognition. Under old business, the council considered making a small change to a town ordinance that would ensure a majority of abutters approved any repairs to private roadways. Town councilor and chair of the roads subcommittee, Will Crocker, explained the issue before the vote.
The committee took most recently a look at the temporary repairs to private ways program. Ordinance Article 3, Section 206-8, found that there were a couple of minor errors that needed to be fixed. One of them was the amendment needs to have the ordinance throughout have the votes for the citizens that want their roads fixed to be 51% as opposed to 50%. Some places it said 50%, some places it said 51%. Obviously, I think it makes much more parliamentary sense to have a vote of 51%, an actual majority, rather than 50%, which would be a tie. So this is basically really just to fix a couple of errors there that just need to be fixed parliamentarily.
The council voted unanimously to make that change. Town Council also considered the acceptance of a $9,500 grant from the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension to remove 3.5 acres of dead pine trees off Old Stage Road in West Barnstable. That would help reduce the risk of wildfire. Conservation agent Darcy Carley urged the council to accept the grant.
This grant is to deal with, actually these pine trees were planted way back in the Depression era, and they were planted for the hopes that they would provide timber later on, but they never got to the height that would do well for timber harvest. And they've been attacked by diplodia and root rot. So if you actually park at the West Barnstable Deer Club driveway and look across, you'll see the dead red pines there. And so the property is 18 acres, but looking at aerials, I have about maybe 4 acres of it. And with the grant funding, I'll be able to take out 3.5 acres. And the areas that are most critical are behind house number 1753 Old Stage Road, and the trees right along Old Stage Road, because we have the road and the sidewalk. And then behind some of the houses, I'd like to do a swath behind house 229, 251, 275, and 291. And it really will depend on when we get in there to see what areas we have more pine trees versus the other trees.
The council voted unanimously to accept that grant. The council next discussed a request from Barnstable Public Schools to use $555,000 to make repairs to cafeteria walls at Barnstable High School. The money would also pay for a new air conditioning unit at the high school. Facilities Director Dave Kenyok says the repairs are necessary.
This request is for some emergency repairs that need to be performed at the Barnstable High School cafeteria. It was discovered late this summer that we've had some water infiltration issues coming in through some windows, upper level windows at the cafeteria. They've been penetrating the walls for probably 20 years on the back side to a point where the interior facade studs, it's not the structural part of the building, but the part of the structure that holds the facade, the e-facade, has deteriorated to a point where it's rotted out at the sill. We need to do some repairs on this immediately. We're asking for some funding. Also, we'd like to redirect some funding from another capital project that's already been appropriated to carry out this work as soon as possible. The site is secure. Everything is safe. We've worked with the building department and the fire department to make sure that we can still use the space, but now we need to work on a plan to get this repaired as quickly as possible.
The council voted to hold a public hearing on that request at its next meeting, October 16th. Another measure that went before council would allow the town to write letters of support for certain nonprofit groups that serve the town's vulnerable populations. Town Councilor Jen Cullum explained why she thinks it's a necessary step.
The reason this is before us today is because of the YMCA Achievers program that we heard about, and the competitive nature of applying for and receiving grants. And because we don't have a human services budget, we have very little say in what happens with 501c3s procuring funds in our community. This would give us an opportunity to identify and write letters of support for 501c3s that we feel would benefit our community. It doesn't mean that every 501c3 in our community will be parading in front of us asking for a letter of support. It does mean that if a 501c3 comes before us and we agree through a majority vote that we would like to write a letter of support, that they could include that letter then in their application packets for certain grants that allow that to be included in the application packet. Many don't allow that to be included. But I think it shows that the town has an interest in a human resources or a human services side of things. It's a policy way of giving us a little bit more control over what we allow into our community and what we think priorities are. And I think it speaks to our sincerity in dealing with this issue that is really near and dear to my heart. So,
after some discussion about procedural details, the council voted unanimously to approve the measure. Council also considered accepting a grant of $4,800 to improve the town's waste reduction programs. DPW Director Dan Santos talked about the grant and what it would pay for.
The Department of Environmental Protection has awarded the town of Barnstable a grant under their recycling dividends program in the amount of $4,800. This is a grant that we've received over the last several years, and we typically use for recycling containers, educational program materials. The last grant we used for the Big Belly solar compactor that we put on Main Street this year as a trial, which was really a neat thing. It allowed us to go days between emptying that container. It collects data. We can actually, with our computer back in the office, know when it's full and go and empty it. So that's another, we may do more of those with this, but this is a grant that is fairly straightforward to obtain from DEP, as long as we have certain programs in place, which we do, and we qualify.
The council voted unanimously to accept the grant from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On Monday's show, we will chat with Town Manager Tom Lynch, Superintendent of Schools Dr. Mary Schakowsky, plus we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.